Hello, everybody. Today is the 5th of March, and we're doing business and security for your hump day.
Now, you might be hyped for some upcoming tech releases, although we just had a bunch, but maybe one that you aren't necessarily all that aware of, but is absolutely going to shape your life, is this one.
NVIDIA's next-gen B300 AI GPU expected to launch in Q3 of 2025, mass production in Q4. This is the monster B300 AI GPU at GTC. I will be at GTC, so look for videos about this and probably other crap from GTC. It'll probably be interesting.
Unfortunate font choice, I will say, in their marketing for B300, because it looks a little bit like an 8.
Oh, yeah.
8300.
Yeah.
Womp womp.
I can't remember the exact specs, but I think they said it was like a 50% jump, right? It is very power hungry, and it's going to be very expensive.
And 192 gigs of VRAM, because these large models demand all the VRAM.
But NVIDIA has just released their consumer grade stuff, and those are getting some mixed reviews.
The 5080 and the 5090 and the 5070 Ti don't have the right ROP counts in all cases. And so there's going to be a lot of RMAs. Now, NVIDIA says it's less than 0.5%, but we'll see.
They also said it didn't affect the 5070s.
But then it did.
But then it was still only 0.5%, even though you added. Although they didn't really sell any of those, so.
Do you think there's somebody working like over the weekend to figure out what's going on? Like,
Yeah.
Are they in crisis alert?
Well, I think they're just going to give you another one, but how long is that going to take? They don't have them.
Yeah. The good news is that in the data center, uptake of Blackwell has been a little slow. So like the B5090 production should be off the chain because nobody's buying the more expensive cousin of the B5090.
Last week, we found out about Microsoft's new quantum chip, in which they introduced a whole new kind of way of doing that. Turns out they're not the only ones looking to reinvent.
Amazon uses cat states with error corrections, not to be outdone. They've got their own quantum computer. It's like, hey, we think this will be really good for the cloud. Now, some of Microsoft's claims are a little sus. I'm waiting for independent confirmation of that. And on the Amazon side as well, they're just saying, hey, we can, Schrodinger's cat. It's like it's in an undefined state, and we can somehow use that for error hardening.
So they give a little bit of a layout here. Normally in quantum computing, when you read a variable, you destroy it. Here, they are able to put these Schrodinger things on top of it, which are able to monitor it without reading it. And so they should be able to know whether or not it is phase shifted or anything else weird is happening about it and error correct based on that. And Asus they're playing the wild card here. And they've already done this apparently with a laptop. And people liked it, I guess.
Asus continues fragrant device trend with an aromatic mouse. So you can do aromatherapy in your mouse. Now, remember the story that we had from 2 or 3 weeks ago, which is aromatherapy is as bad for your house pollution as motor exhaust from a vehicle.
Well, that was a different type of thing.
Yeah, I don't think this is heating anything.
Okay.
It's just a cartridge that you pop in there for different flavors. So you see that cavity there? That's your smell cavity.
This is kind of just sort of like a solution in search for a problem a little bit.
But they already have a laptop that does this.
Like, why?
So you can annoy people at Starbucks.
It's like, what does that smell? Oh, that's my laptop.
It smells like lavender.
Some of the early high performance laptops that needed high performance thermal paste, they would emit an odor when they were warm. And it was a very distinct, like chemical production facility smell.
Imagine if it smelled like a Cinnabon when you really ramped it up.
I mean, they would do that for years, like 2 years after you bought a laptop. When it stopped making the smell, it was time to replace the paste.
Now, usually I try to steer away from the pie in the sky energy stories, but this is feeling more and more like this might be coming. And we have a little light on information here, but they claim to have solved all the problems that everybody else is having.
German startup wins accolade for its fusion reactor design, and venture capitalists have given it like $35 million.
Is this like when we have the battery stories?
Maybe.
This is the new battery tech.
So we
all the
learned
nuclear reactors.
Tokamak, how do you even pronounce it?
Tokamak? I don't know.
They use different ways of doing that, lasers or magnets or whatever. This is a totally different way of doing it. And they're like, we thought it would take 2 years to figure this out. It took us a year. We're going to be ready very soon. And this is not like the tokamak is just research grade. It's never going to generate energy. They're like, no, our stuff is ready to generate energy. Well, after we build it.
I mean, that almost looks small enough we could deploy one here, and then we'd be all set.
And some people who are shying away from the, horrible lock-in state of all technology are enjoying this brand, who had a major announcement.
Framework moves into desktops, 2-in-1 laptops, in their second-gen event. They've got the Framework desktop, which weirdly is not super upgradable, but it's an ITX motherboard that is absurdly fast. It's got the new AMD Halo part, and they overclocked the bejesus out of it. Not really overclocked, it's maybe not the right word, but it's 120 watts burstable to 140 watts. It's probably going to be performance competitive with NVIDIA's Project Digits, although we don't know yet, but 2/3 the cost of Project Digits, even 128 gigs, run AI models, do crazy stuff. We'll see.
And we've been learning that, AI is going to need unlimited energy. And we got some sort of mixed messages. NVIDIA definitely says, yeah, we're going to be able to sell whatever we build from now on. OpenAI is saying that kind of thing. But Meta said this was only a rumor, and they were not doing this.
Meta in talks for $200 billion AI data center project, the information reports. They need more space. Meta is very, very power and space constrained.
Now, the people who were the sources here said, no, we've been to the sites, we've looked at them, we've talked about it. Meta themselves have said, we're not doing that. We've already set our budget. It's like $80 billion, and that's when we're sticking with that. Are they just trying to hide it from their competitors?
Don't want to drive the price up.
And we all are going to have space phones soon. And to start out, it was text messaging, but it's moving rapidly.
AT&T and Verizon connect first cell phone to satellite video calls.
And it's not through SpaceX. It is through this other company, Space Mobile, who has a small number of satellites up there. It's good enough for this.
Got to wait for them to get overhead. And it's like, oh, the call's dropping because the satellite's moving away because they don't have a full constellation.
It was AT&T satellite, or this company's satellite through AT&T on one end and Verizon's normal network on the other end.
I suspect that this is maybe some sort of stock manipulation post because the magic of satellite calling is that you have a whole constellation of satellites, and trying to dig up if this company has a whole constellation of satellites, it seems to suggest that they do not.
No, I think it mentioned they have a very small number
in
the article. And this is a missort because I intended for this one to come right after the Meta one because this is the other side of the coin.
Microsoft dropped some of its AI data center leases, TD Cowen says. And this might be what we were talking about last week, where it's like, hey, Microsoft is realizing from some of the work coming out of other organizations that if they just put a little bit of work into efficiency, they could really stretch what they have.
Or they don't see the growth that everybody else is claiming.
Well, yes. Or,
also, maybe OpenAI is pivoting away from that.
Yeah, they've also got that weird deal with Oracle. Yeah. Well, I guess technically that's OpenAI, but Microsoft's also dealing with Oracle as well.
So we learned that Tim Cook had a meeting with Donald Trump, and I guess they're friends again. But Trump wanted to get rid of DEI. Maybe they will. Maybe they won't. They are going to do a lot of things to please him.
Drupal. What is
Bloomberg? Just, yeah.
Bloomberg has Apple will add 20,000 jobs, U.S. jobs, amid threat from Trump tariffs. And so this is Apple trying to bring some of their processor manufacturing and some of their high-tech manufacturing to the new high-tech manufacturing facilities that are being built stateside. But this is also hiring developers and programmers and all sorts of other skilled people. Apple says it's going to cost them $500 billion over the next 4 years.
And it's almost all going to be R&D who they're hiring. They don't think they're going to do a lot of manufacturing here. I think they do want to get a little bit of that Stargate money.
Yeah.
And here's a follow-up from last week. Of course, this was a terrible idea, and as soon as the world found out about it, they had to retreat.
HP realizes that mandatory 15-minute support call wait times isn't good support.
They will be going forward with it eventually anyway, I'm sure.
They absolutely will go forward with it.
Probably before the end of the year, right? They'll do it quietly next time, and they'll fire whoever leaked that. And, Elon Musk is, they cited his numbers in the Musk article yesterday about how popular they are. Turns out it's political divide. In Europe, not so much the case.
Tesla valuation falls below $1 trillion after sales plummet in Europe. Wasn't it down like 37% or something in this article?
There was one I saw that was like 40-something%.
It amazes me how many people are buying cars based on like perception and ideology rather than the car.
Does it do the thing efficiently?
I mean, that was kind of always what Tesla was about, though, right? And
Yeah.
so, yeah.
Is it easy to work on? I mean, if there was an electric car that was basically just a motor bolted to a wheel and it was easy to maintain and like swap the batteries and easy to do stuff with the dash and maintenance and stuff, yeah, that would be a great purchase. Those are not that.
To me, that's the ultimate irony of Elon Musk because he says we need to stop government waste. Dude, your empire is built on government waste. We subsidized your very existence.
But don't worry, we'll continue to subsidize
Yeah.
existence while we slash NOAA and NASA and all of our other really cool science programs.
How about a program for you to pay all that back? And speaking of electric cars, they have lithium batteries, and somebody had the great idea to put those in a power plant.
After Moss Landing power plant reignites, officials brace for more flare-ups. So it caught on fire, they put it out, and then a week later, it caught on fire again. A lot of damaged lithium battery packs.
Burned itself out. They couldn't do anything about it. So is it going to happen again? I don't know. Maybe. Wait and see. Wait and see in the dark. And finally, the OG artificial friend is now going to get a language model.
Amazon announces AI-powered Alexa Plus. They actually did a little demo video of this. And the only thing I was left wondering was, what took so long? Like, this should have been what Alexa was all the time. Amazon could have cornered the market.
Do you think Alexa and Rufus are married?
Probably not.
Oh, wow. They're just friends with benefits.
Maybe. I don't know. But you know what? You should have Alexa.
I should write a fan fiction.
You should have Alexa write it.
Oh, yeah. Alexa, write a fan fiction about you and Rufus. And she's like, I don't know who Rufus is.
So they said that every device that used to be Alexa will have this capability. So it's definitely all happening on the cloud, nothing on the device. And
There's free trials, but they want to charge you $20 a month.
I'm at 30, right?
Wow.
Or 30. Was it 30? I thought it was 20.
I thought it was outrageous. But you do get it free with Prime. Oh, no, you're right. $19.99 a month, $139 a year for Prime. Prime is actually cheaper than Alexa Plus.
I guess they think it's going to be useful.
Why would anybody get one thing? I mean, that's insane.
We need to get $5 or $6 million of money from some benevolent benefactor, and then just build the ultimate home assistant, like the whole ultimate home assistant like integration. Go to the home assistant people and be like, "This is our project. This is what we're going to do, top down," and just get it done, and then just destroy all this nonsense.
But then they'll say, how do we monetize it? And then the answer will be, you have to charge $30 a month.
The home assistant people, like the programmers behind it, are hedging against their own potential future greed with the way that they've structured the intellectual property. It's actually kind of brilliant. It's something that like Firefox, like Mozilla should do.
Well, the consumer among all of this is getting hit pretty hard. People don't have the extra money that they had before. And that maybe is showing up in our entertainment industry.
Warner Brothers Discovery slashes gaming business and closed 3 studios. They also just pulled the plug on its Wonder Woman game.
One of the most hilarious things here is if you ever played any of the Lord of the Rings Shadow of Mordor game, that was the name of it, right? They had this system where like...
Oh, yeah, the adversary.
Nemesis.
Yeah, or Nemesis, yeah.
So like the bosses in the game would become angry at you and hunt you down, and you'd have different relationships with them based on what you did. That is now patented, but the studio was shut down. So they're not going to use it, but it's locked up in a patent until like 2039. Wonder Woman was going to have it. And the AI companies are starting to branch out.
Perplexity has teased a web browser called Comet, and they're also hiring for Chromium engineers. So if you were just laid off and you know about Chromium and Chromium internals, you're looking for a job, Perplexity is hiring in a big way.
Does Comet let me use an ad blocker? That's all I care about.
Well, you don't need to, because you just talk to the agent, and the agent goes on the internet and finds the things that are real, and so you never touch the internet. You never have to see the ads. You never have to do anything.
Not a lot of details about it other than that. And DoorDash, it turns out, back in the day, were really, really bad and just straight up stealing everybody's money. Now they've been caught.
DoorDash paying drivers $17 million for their stolen tips. Because
So-
you would leave a tip, and it's like, this is for the driver. That did not go to the driver.
Well, it did, but what they said was 100% of tips go to the drivers. That was true. They would give the driver 100% of the money that you would tip, but they would subtract their own payment from that. So if the base pay was like $250 and the tip was $10, they would take their $250 back and give the driver $10 instead of $12.50. They have to pay all that back, hopefully with interest.
I say it's weird that, like, if you were to do that just as, like, a citizen, like, taking someone's money that way, you would probably end up in prison, but it's okay if you're a giant company.
The number one amount of theft in the U.S. is wage theft.
Yeah, it's kind of like Office Space or Superman 2, right?
Yeah. Except it's kind of like, assumed that you would do that if you're a large enough company. It's like, oh, yeah, that's just one of the perks of
That's
being
fine.
a giant company.
Well, here's a big story for some people, and you got to wonder if maybe, like the powers that be saw what's coming, and they're like, oh, God, we're going to need to turbocharge the bread and circuses. What is the best circus we can give these people? And they called up one man, the only man who can deliver it.
Fresh leaks suggest Half-Life 3 development may be nearing completion.
So this is all based on...
What's the story?
It's all based on... they put in the source engine games, they put like new functions and stuff that they are working on, and people go through and sleuth that, and they're like, this has got to be Half-Life 3. That we don't need this kind of thing in Dota anymore. This has got to be something new. And HLX is the keyword that they all seem to be focusing on.
I'll believe it when I see it.
Valve literally cannot count to 3.
Yeah.
Nothing. It's like
I
nothing.
mean, next they did Half-Life Alex. Could it be something for Half-Life Alex? HLX?
HLX
Yeah.
could be, yeah. Right? That'd be a disappointment, wouldn't it? And this is just a little reminder of how little privacy you have and how immediate the surveillance state can find you.
The California Highway Patrol uses AI surveillance to arrest a Bay Area suspect on an Oakland bus. So this is somebody who stole a car, I think, and they were being chased, and then they got out and they ran, but they got on a bus, and they were found by face recognition.
Plate readers got them at first. The cops found them. They ran, and they don't chase anymore because why would you? Because a constant fixed wing surveillance plane was already in the air. They just keep it up there. It took on the chase. They abandoned the Jeep, and then they hit this bus, and some kind of facial recognition got them in the bus, and you can't run from it. You cannot escape.
This is like me in GTA when I have 5 stars and I try getting on a bus. Didn't work.
And they're not just surveilling you from the sky, but in fact, all of your data.
Google's unannounced update scans all your photos. You can opt out of it, but you have to actually go do that. Now has never been a better time to build your own home photo server, which will never take on a mind of its own or alter the deal. Pray it doesn't alter it further.
Safe, what do they call this? Safe something? I don't remember.
It's so small.
Go read the article and uninstall this. Safety Core. Yes, Safety Core. What it does is it looks through all of the images on your phone constantly and monitors them. And you can uninstall it. And we have maybe the biggest crypto scam that has ever been pulled off.
How North Korea pulled off a $1.5 billion crypto heist, the biggest in history. So this is the Ethereum thing. And it wasn't technical, it was people. People were the weak point.
They were using offline cold wallets to store this stuff, but they had a system of managing that where you could log in. It required multiple people two-factoring, like the old 2 people across the room thumbprinting at the same time, the digital version of that. But they were able to social engineer their way through all of that and get the money.
The other thing for the Ethereum network is they're in a tough spot because they could roll back the transactions, but then that proves that they can roll back the transactions, which is not optimal.
Bybit says they're covering it.
Yeah,
They're just going to pay for it.
So that's the least terrible option for the chain, but I mean, that's still a crazy amount of money.
And we've also, if this is true, we've enriched North Korea by that amount. So, And surveillance, it's not just on your phone, it's not just in the sky, but it's also in your workplace.
Surveillance tech waiting for workers as they return to the office. So it's not just monitoring you to make sure that you're doing work. You're also going to be training AIs that are your replacement, which unlike, the paper trail created by training an H-1B as your replacement, which, maybe that would be a bad labor board practice. You being replaced by AI is not protected under the law. That's that's perfectly normal.
Radar, sonar, Wi-Fi, heat mapping, key fobs to get in and out of doors. They describe modern office buildings as not just key fob to get in the door, you key fob to get into the break room, the kitchen, the conference room, whatever. And they're not just doing that for security, they're doing that to find out where you're moving around throughout the day and tracking everything. And this is something that is becoming big business.
Why Combinator deletes posts after a startup's demo goes viral. The startup demo that has been funded by Y Combinator is a piece of software that uses the surveillance cameras to figure out how productive your employees are, and if they're below a minimum level of productivity, it can automatically notify your boss and say, "Hey, what's going on?"
It dispatches a robot that comes to kill you.
Sweatshop startup, they call it. This is hauntingly similar to what a lot of Elon Musk is proposing for the government.
Also, Amazon's worker, like the warehouse worker bracelets that buzz and are like, "Hey, you're not doing things."
It's kind of worse than that, though, because you're less aware of it.
Yeah.
It's more of a hidden bracelet.
I feel like the bracelet, like if it false triggered, or if you just took a break for like a second and then it starts buzzing at you, that would really piss me off. Like it's kind of like when you get constant emails when you're trying to do something.
I don't think it's a second, but I think it's a fairly short amount of time.
Yeah.
You got to develop a twitch.
Yeah.
And if you are moving into a nice apartment building, you're going to have this state-of-the-art, maybe a key fob or a keypad or something like that. You're going to have an intercom system that buzzes people up and gets them through all this security. They're tracking all that the same way the workplace people are, but they're bad at setting it up.
Apartment buildings broken into with a phone in 10 minutes. Internet of Things connected intercoms using default credentials vulnerable to anyone with Google. So if your apartment building has electronic locks or just even electronic access, a lot of the time it's easy to defeat that.
This guy was able to do it immediately just by Googling the serial number off the intercom. And they were like, oh, there's a default login. It worked. And if you are perhaps being monitored, maybe you're on probation, maybe you're doing a diversion for a court case, you're going to be spending a lot of time peeing in front of other people. They're going to take care of that data, right?
U.S. drug testing firm DISA, D-I-S-A, says that the data breach will impact 3.3 million people. So now you're probably also going to be blackmailed.
What a picture they chose for this article.
What did they get? Well, it's the usual stuff, but there's a kind of an alarming extra one down here. What is that? What are other data elements?
I also like the government ID number, but they say social security number, so driver's license, social security number, plus also any other IDs that you have, which is sort of a worst case scenario for identity theft.
I wonder if that last part is your drug test results, or did they store that separately, do you think?
No, it's probably your drug test results too, yeah.
And if you're using Apple products to find things with those lovely AirTags, well, those are actually, it's like AirTags are not special in the Apple ecosystem. They have an ID like everything else.
Apple's Find My Network exploit lets hackers silently track any Bluetooth device. And they demonstrated this by tracking a laptop on a bicycle all across town and other random Bluetooth devices. Now, Apple tags have some hardening against this in that they regenerate unique IDs following a cryptographic hash, but they use GPUs to defeat that.
And Apple has known about this for over a year at this point. And the researcher said he doesn't expect them to ever fix it. And even if they could, it probably would be cost prohibitive.
Yeah, there's not an easy fix for this.
But there is an easy fix for this, but do you trust it? I don't know that I do.
How to disable automatic content recognition on your TV and why you shouldn't wait to do it. Automatic content recognition, your TV knows what you're watching. And as I've struggled with my LG TVs, I'm pretty sure they're still doing it.
Maybe stick with non-TV monitors. I know they're rare, but they're out there.
I'm going to have to do something drastic because somebody accidentally put one of the LG conference room things on the Wi-Fi here, and it's just like, delete the credentials. And it's like, oops, the credentials are back. And it's just like that. Why do you keep doing this?
So they give you instructions for all this stuff. But again, don't trust that. Because even if they don't just ignore your preferences, every update, they'll probably turn that back on.
You need a not smart TV. Even if you have a smart TV, don't use the smart functions of it. Don't let it on the Wi-Fi. Don't let it connect to the network.
Some of them won't work now.
ACR gets you even if you're loading from media.
Yeah.
Like they look at everything. Because they're just taking screenshots. And this fella is, a lesson in being social engineered and being careful.
Former Disney employee files wrongful termination complaint after cyber attack. So they downloaded a thing. There was a data exfiltration, and then they were fired. But it's like, no, I should have just been retrained.
That guy has some impressive facial hair.
Stash.
How long did he spend gelling it this morning?
He has to wax that heavily. Probably a couple of times a day. Or he's probably got a can of wax in his back pocket. So he got his home computer hit, downloaded an AI tool, whatever that was, he thought. Turned out that was malware, and it went through him and got into the Disney stuff and their Slack channels and stuff and got everything. He was apparently not two-factoring. He's been fired.
Oops. Please don't fire me for that. Just retrain me.
I saw another story about Disney. It wasn't really like security related or tech related at all, but it was something about like, they do random room checks when you go on like their cruises or down to their parks, and people in the comments of that story were like, oh yeah, of course. And I was like,
what are they checking for?
Alcohol.
Well, no, they said, I guess there had been like a shooting incident years ago, and like now they do like security checks in people's rooms, but I was like, did people just walk into your room and like look through your stuff? Like
they would,
mostly alcohol checking.
To find a gun, they would have to search everything, right?
Yeah, they're not looking for a gun. They're looking for alcohol.
So you're agreeing at some point during that whole process.
Yeah, so the post was someone was upset because they're like, I was in the shower and someone just like opened the door. And I was like, do people pay for this? Like, I don't.
They pay a lot.
That's nuts.
You know what I would like to do this weekend? I would like to pay $13 for a hot dog and be searched.
Yeah, I don't. I just, as someone who just doesn't know anything about Disney or theme parks, like I just opened that thread and it was like reading something in an alien language. I was like, what? Why?
But here's the thing. Those people that you think are completely unreasonable, how many of those are just Disney bots?
Yeah, that was a good question. Because there were a lot of people who were kind of defending it. They're like, no. And I was like, am I crazy? Am I the crazy one?
That's how I felt reading all of the United Healthcare coverage. Because there was always a lot of comments. And it was like, rule of law.
The rule of law doesn't seem to apply to vast swaths of a second tier of citizens, if you will.
They didn't mention that.
That's weird.
Anyway, we'll see you guys on Friday.